The Udyr rework has been live for a little while, and I've been playing him on my Smurf and having some pretty damn good games. I've also researched a bunch of pro players and one-tricks from around the world to compile all this knowledge into one video to give you guys a start on how to play the Reworked Udyr. So to kick things off, let's just talk about what's different. The old Udyr was very strong in the early game. He would find someone 1v1 and he would win very easily. The new Udyr is different. He is a lot weaker earlier. He clears slower, he loses a lot more health while taking camps, but he scales much harder and he has a lot more utility, so it makes him better in team fights. So a trade-off for early game for a trade-off for late game. That's all you really need to know about the new Udyr, so let's get into the rest of the guide. So let's kick off the Udyr rework with his abilities. Now there's a lot of text on screen because Riot Games new champion, they need an essay to explain their champions, but I'm going to keep it short and simple. I'm not going to be reading all of this. I'm going to show clips on screen to explain everything I'm saying, and I'm going to try to paraphrase as much as possible. So first things first is the passive, which is Awaken. After you cast your ability, you can cast a stronger version of that ability. So for example, you cast your Q, your W, whatever it is. After you cast it, you have another option to cast it again, and it'll be a stronger version of that base ability. And we're going to go through all the versions of these abilities as we go throughout this guide. Another thing to keep in mind is every time you use one of these abilities, you get bonus attack speed for 2 auto attacks, and also both of those auto attacks reduce the cooldown of your passive. So when you use an empowered version of your ability, it goes on cooldown. So every time you auto with a new ability, it'll reduce the cooldown of your passive. Sounds complicated, you'll see it in clips. Next is your Q, Wilding Claw. If you're familiar with the old Udyr, it kind of feels the same, except it applies on 2 auto attacks. So your next 2 auto attacks apply physical bonus damage, and you also get bonus attack speed and deal bonus physical damage for 4 seconds after using your Q. When you awaken it, you gain bonus attack speed on top of your already bonus attack speed, and it also shoots down 6 strikes of lightning, which deal magic damage based on the enemy's % max HP. So this is a really strong ability in 1v1s because all 6 strikes of lightning hit one target. It's not that good in AoE because it spreads the damage very evenly and it's not that good. So Wild Claw's single target ability. Just remember that. The second thing we've got is your W, your Iron Mantle. And this is pretty similar to Udyr's old W. You press it and you have a shield. Also, your next 2 auto attacks heal. When you awaken, you get a second shield on top of the shield you already have, and you heal for 4 seconds. Pretty simple, but it's a really good ability, and you'll usually max it second. I'm going to go through all of the maxing and things like that later, but W, very strong. So now let's continue on to the next abilities. This is your E and your R. Your E is Blazing Stampede. Very similar to Udyr's old E. You gain movement speed for 4 seconds, which slowly decays over 1.5 seconds. Your auto attacks stun for 0.75 seconds, and it has a cooldown. So if you stun someone, you can't stun them for a certain amount of time. It scales with level, but it starts at 6 seconds. So if you E someone, you can't auto them for 6 seconds to start with. The next thing is your Awaken. This is a really big change. When you use your Awaken E, you gain even more movement speed, but most importantly, you become CC immune for 1.5 seconds. So this is immune to everything. This is Malzahar ult. This is Set ultimate, where he flings you away. Whatever it is, he is immune to it. It is really strong, super good for dives, super good for engages, really nice ability and really nice change. And the final thing, the best thing about Udyr at the moment is his R. This is his Wingborn Storm. Udyr's next auto attacks do bonus magic damage, the next 2. He summons an ice storm around himself for 4 seconds, which ticks damage every 0.5 seconds, and it slows. And the Awakened form summons a mobile ice storm that deals magic damage based on the enemy's % max health. It's just a big storm that travels around, follows the enemies, does huge damage with % max HP. Absolutely crazy that they put this in. And it slows. So Udyr doesn't even need to be on top of them. He can throw that and run away. And it's just really annoying. And this is what people are abusing right now with Udyr. They're building tiny little bits of AP, but mostly tank and just shredding people with this % max HP damage. So these are the abilities, and I'm going to show you how to better use them in the rest of this guide. So let's move on. So now let's tackle the runes. The best runes at the moment for Udyr is Conqueror, Triumph, Legend Tenacity, and Last Stand. And I take this in both of my rune pages, but it changes a little bit in the secondary tree. Sometimes I like to take conditioning and overgrowth, and sometimes I like to take water walking and transcendence in the sorcery tree. So I like to take resolve in most of my games. I'd say about 90% of the games, because it provides me a lot more scaling and it makes me really tanky with my sunfires that we're going to be building and we'll talk about later. And sorcery is really, really nice if you want that early pressure. If you want to be using water walking, you want to be ganking early. But Udyr scales now. He's not an early game champion, so I'm pretty much tending to go resolve most of my games. Quick side note at the end, some people might be wondering, don't you usually go water walking and celerity? I think transcendence is better than celerity now. That is because Udyr doesn't have as much move speed as he used to, so you don't get much value out of celerity as you used to, and transcendence is really nice on Udyr, so I go that. Skill order for Udyr is going to be your R max, so you're going to be maxing your R, then you're going to be maxing your W, you're going to be maxing E, then your Q. But level 1, you start Q, and I'm going to be showing that in the clear. For summoner spells, it's between Flash and Ghost. At the moment, I'm taking Ghost most games. I think Ghost is better because you're Udyr, you like to run around, you like to kite, you like to be a nuisance. So I think Ghost provides you more value. You can go Flash, but for now, I'm recommending Ghost. Okay, so time to talk about the build. This is where things have changed a bit. Udyr is building more AP than he used to. He could have built AP, he could have built AD in the past, but now it is primarily AP, just because of how well it works with his R Awaken. So, first things first, we're going to be going blue smite most games. Sometimes you can go red, but blue smite's the best. On your first base, you're going to be looking to pick up a dark seal. It is really, really nice to start scaling and getting that AP running on Udyr. Next, you're going to be going Sunfire. Sunfire is nice. It gives you tenacity, HP stats that you need to run around, and it does damage too with your auto attacks. Then we're going to be going into Demonic Embrace. Demonic Embrace gives us so much damage over time. It synergizes so well with our kit. It gives us HP and the damage we need. It is really, really nice. Down here, we're going to be looking at the boots. I think Mercury Treads, Steel Caps, and Boots of Swiftness are all really good in different situations, so depending on your game, choose the best one. I've also seen people going Lucidity Boots. I'm not really sure where you should be picking those, so I recommend these 3. Situational items. These are the items you're going to be rounding out your build with depending on the situation. So down here, we've got Frozen Heart, we've got Deadman's. If you need some armor, you need some speed in Deadman's. You've got the Thorn Mail, maybe the enemy has a bunch of healing. Force of Nature for MR. Medjai's, I really recommend getting a Medjai's because it's hard to die on Udyr if you have a bunch of stacks. If you have 7 or more Dark Seal stacks, I like picking up a Medjai's because that's when it becomes valuable and cost effective at 7 stacks and above. And then for the final thing down the bottom, you may have noticed it, it is the Rabadon's Death Cap. I think it's really good if you're scaling and you just can't die. If your Sunfire and your Demonic is enough, sometimes it's really good to go Rabadon's because you just have a bunch of AP scaling. You have your R, which uses AP, you have your W. It's really, really nice to have. And if you're not going to die, you may as well throw it down, do a bunch of damage, and close out your game. So Rabadon's is also another option. So that's how I'm building Udyr at the moment. I think it's really good. We're about to get into the full clear, but first I want to show you guys the basic combos for Udyr. It just helps understand the clear a lot and know how to use them in the early game. All you need to know is you should be using 2 auto attacks after using an ability. You press Q, you auto twice. Then you R, you auto twice. Whatever it is, press an ability and auto attack twice to get your maximum damage. And this is what we're going to be using while we're doing our full clear. So let's get into it. Okay, guys, so in this section, I'm going to be talking about Udyr's pathing while also explaining Udyr's full clear with this video in front of me. So first things first, with the clear, you're going to press Q before you actually start the buff. So anytime before 1 minute 30, you're going to Q. That gives you bonus damage on your first 2 auto attacks. Then you're just going to start weaving in abilities back and forth while kiting the red. You're going to auto attack twice, press Q, auto attack twice, empowered Q, auto attack twice, and kite to the next buff, going with your R and doing a very, very similar thing. I'm going to also link a really in-depth clear from a guy called Phalaris down below in the description if you want a really detailed explanation, but I think this one does it pretty well. Only thing to take note of here in this clear is I'm going to use my awakened R here on the little Krugs while I'm walking away. Here you can see it's killing the little fellas. I have a skin on, so I think this is Spirit Guard Udyr, so it's fire, it's meant to be ice, whatever. The rest of this clear is pretty simple. So, Udyr's pathing now. Udyr is super, super weak in the early game, and he needs levels to be strong. So, what I recommend you guys to do is play Udyr to full clear. I want you guys to start one side of the jungle and path to the next. Udyr doesn't invade. He doesn't fight early. He needs to play safe. He is a scaling champion. You need to think of him like these defensive champs. You want to play away from getting invaded. You are more like an Evelyn than you are this 1v1 monster like Elise Sin now. It's kind of sad, but that's the trade-off with the new Udyr. So playing safe, scaling, and full clearing. So I'd really recommend you guys go out and learn these full clears. It's really, really essential to playing the new Udyr. Final thing that I want to tell you guys about this clear is that some people like to go 2 points in your R early, but I think it's super essential to get all of your abilities on Udyr as soon as possible. So I don't like it because I like to get my E, my W, my Q, and my R all at level 4, but that's the Udyr full clear. All right, so let's talk about Udyr's skirmishing, because at the end of the day, it's still a jungler. He's still got to fight early. He's still got to gank. So let's talk about how we do the most damage in the early game and in these skirmishes. So first things first, you guys are going to need to know is the 1v1 combo. You're going to start with your R, then do 2 auto attacks, then Q, do 2 auto attacks, and then Q awakened form with 2 autos. And this is going to give you the maximum damage in 1v1s, because your R, it goes perpetually over time, so you can use it while your Qs are going off, and then your Q awakened in 1v1s just does the flat most damage. The next thing you need to know is the fast damage combo. First, you're going to E onto your target to start the fight, then you're going to Q auto and skip the second auto and just Q awakened, 2 autos, and then chase them down with R. This is the fastest way to get damage out on a target if you need it quick. And then the final one is the chase combo. You're gonna R, then R awakened. This is gonna create a slow field which will chase your opponent and then slow them down, allowing your teammates to catch up. And then you're gonna be able to Q them, auto them twice, and then chase them down with your E. Pretty simple. R awakened if you want the slow to chase them down. So here are some general tips for Udyr's early skirmishing as well. I want you guys to be playing around your teammates. I want you guys to be looking for who is strong. You can't play to weak teammates as Udyr because he does not carry himself in the 1v1. And the biggest thing that I want you guys to know about skirmishing is don't take skirmishes in the early game. Try and power farm and try and take those dragons. Udyr does dragons really, really quickly. Try and stray away from the skirmishes and almost play something like a Shyvana in the early game. Power farm, dragon farm, and play the early game to win in tempo. The final thing I want to close it out with is your team fighting. Team fighting, this is when you have 1 item, 2 items, and you're able to play around as Udyr. Udyr is a really annoying champion. You have speed and you have shields and you're really hard to kill. So what you're going to be doing in team fights is you're going to be opening up with your R awaken. You can use this to poke. It is really, really nice poke. If you're at a dragon dance, you're at a baron dance. If an enemy just walks in the cloud and they get tracked down it, it's like getting trapped in a Victor ultimate. They're going to be taking huge damage and they're going to be able to struggle in the upcoming fight. You're also probably going to be able to get your awaken up over time and probably proc it 2 to 3 times in the fight if you're using it early. So that's a big tip. Get out your R awaken early. Second thing in team fights is do not be afraid to just go for your W awaken. Your W is so strong. It gives you so much healing. It gives you so much tankiness. So be very ready to use that. Your E, be very, very cautious of opening up with this ability. You gain a lot of speed, you gain a lot of ability to leave your teammates, so play at range and only use your E awaken when you're looking for picks. Final thing for your team fighting is kite back. You need to drop your R and kite. Udyr does not do consistent damage. He drops his R and he slows people and he creates utility for his team. He doesn't do raw DPS anymore, so you need to play to kite around, run around, and create chaos in these team fights. So that's the mindset going to team fights, and that's the rest of the guide. I hope you guys enjoyed this guide. This isn't super in depth and I'm not explaining every single thought process like a bunch of my other guides because Udyr is new and we're still learning things about him every single day from around the world. So I hope you guys enjoyed this and I hope you guys are able to get a quick start into Udyr and learn a few things about him. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Check out my coaching website in the description, and I hope you guys enjoy the next videos coming.